Welcome to another episode of ICE 365. I'm joined today by two very good friends of mine, two friends that I haven't seen for a while because we've been separated because of COVID, Ayako Nakayama and Toru Mihara. Thank you for joining us today to talk about the state of affairs in Japan.
Thank you.
I'm going to dive right into it. Obviously, we're still separated because of COVID. You guys are getting ready for the Olympics, but Toru, from your perspective, let's talk about how the IR process has somewhat evolved over the last 18 months as we've been in this pandemic period.
Well, things seems to be working on, but there's a certain anxiety and uncertainty in the room within the past few weeks. And you know what's happening. And Osaka is stable. Yokohama is almost chaos. Last week, there's a certain candidate appeared called incumbent Minister Okonogi, who is the incumbent minister of chief of public safety commissioners, and he started to proclaim candidatures for the mayorship of Yokohama without supporting IR. So what is occurring right now is that there's no candidate who are supporting IR in Yokohama in the coming mayoral elections in August. So it's almost a confusion. You never know who is going to be candidate, who the majority party is supporting. It's almost total chaos over here. So that the industry's anxiety is that maybe city of Yokohama maybe drop out. For other three important prefectures, Osaka, well, fine, it seems to be they're still discussing, negotiating. Wakayama, well, that's another news. The one prominent candidate dropped out, Sun Cities. And it does seem that the Clear Vest has been awarded, but there's a lot of rumors circulating around the market that their proposal is not creditworthy or credible proposals. So they're trying to negotiate with Prefecture Wakayama, but there's also certain possibility that the Wakayama may drop out if the proposal is not sustainable. Nagasaki is going on. I think it's going on. So this is the current situation right now where we don't know which prefecture will remain in the race.
You bring up some very interesting points of a changing dynamic, and Ayako, I'm going to go to you next. When I first started in this, which was back in 2004, there was the hope of multiple cities and multiple, operators that have come down to us. At this point, Nagasaki is down to 3. Do you think overall that, the process has been hurt because of COVID, has been hurt because of other delays? From your perspective, can the IR industry still be what we think it could have been 15, 10, even 5 years ago?
The current situation is very dynamic, I would say. I try to be positive, but especially the current situation in Yokohama is very unexpected by the industry, especially by 5 or 10, 15 years ago. As Yokohama has been in the processes for many years, and there are always certainly some the anxiety over the political processes. But for this candidate, as Mr. Okonogi is LDP, and then he just resigned it a couple of days ago. But he was a minister, so he is now going against for IR. So everybody's thinking this is a nightmare for Yokohama and the IR in the region. So what will happen in the region? So first of all, we don't know the 4 candidates at this point, because there are still some timeline for some other candidates to apply and elect for Yokohama city mayor election. So especially the controversial aspect is the current mayor Yokohama Hayashi, if she is going to elect again as her 4th election this time. So no LDP is not likely to support her. So is she likely to win or not? This is also is going to be one of the biggest issue that the industry is now discussing. So I would say the current situation is certainly not expected, but I would say some other areas like the state Osaka is pretty stable, as Mihara Sensei early stated. So I would say this IR processes now has been questioning that is this going to move forward as it is, even though this Yokohama controversial aspect now is happening. So if this is any timeline change, as a whole timeline change could happen in next few weeks or few months time, or move forward as it is. This is, I think, the biggest question now.
Before we get into timeline, and I want to close out this segment with a quick question for both of you. You've got the 4 prefectures that, may or may not be in. Toru, you talked about Wakayama that is in, out, depends on how things go. Is there anyone else within the current time frame that raises their hand and says they're in? Quick answer, real quick. Toru, you first.
I don't think so. It's so limited times. The government will not change current timelines, and no other prefecture will be able to participate.
Ayako, your thoughts?
I would say yes and no. This could happen. Maybe the time will tell, especially after Olympics and the Paralympics. Things will be more clear.
Very good. Well, we'll jump into the next segment a little bit more on timeline and process and the regulation. But for ICE 365, we appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to you joining us in our next segment.